I never thought a simple warning would lead to a life-changing gift. A luxury car, just for me. I will never forget the day everything fell apart. My heart raced. The air felt thick, electric. It all began with a message that sent shockwaves through my quiet life. Warning. Your time is running out. It read. My hands trembled as I stared at the screen. What did it mean? I had no idea. The red notification glowed with a sinister promise. I thought it was spam, but something deep inside urged me to pay attention. In that moment, panic gripped me. My mind raced to my familiar mother's worrying glance, my father's silent strength, my younger sister's innocent laughter. Their faces flooded my thoughts, each one tied to unfulfilled dreams and always strained for more. My life felt like a stagnant pond, and now this call to action bubbled to the surface, demanding I respond. But what did it mean? Was I in danger? Some primal instinct twisted in my stomach, leaving a deep pit of fear. I could hear my heartbeat, loud, echoing like a warning siren in my ears. I stood at the window looking out. The sky was achingly blue. Everything felt wrong. I hurried to my laptop, frantically searching for answers. My eyes darted over every page, hungry for comprehension. I found nothing, just dead ends and growing anxiety whispering my name. And then, just as I began to lose hope, an unmarked envelope appeared on my doorstep. My breath caught in my throat. I could feel a weight in my chest, a mixture of dread and anticipation. It felt like destiny wrapped in paper. Inside was a key, a shiny, beautiful key that seemed to hint at something phenomenal but also deeply unsettling. I could feel the cool metal against my skin as I turned it over in my hand. My chest tightened. A part of me was drawn to the unknown, but another part screamed for me to run. I glanced around, half expecting someone to jump out and say it's all a joke. Just a dream. I opened the envelope further. A single line of text sent chills up my spine. Congratulations on your new car. Just like that, the promise of luxury and freedom whispered to me. But at what cost? I felt like an actor in a twisted fairy tale, standing at a crossroads with danger slinking nearby. Should I follow this lead? My heart pounded as reality sank in. I was already torn. The familiar world of home and comfort felt like it was slipping through my fingers. I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. What would happen if I took this leap? What awaited me beyond the comfort of my ordinary life? What was really behind this gift? With trembling hands, I glanced back at the screen. What have I gotten myself into? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The hours dragged on like the weight of lead, each tick of the clock echoing in the corners of my mind. I stared at the key on the table as if it were a living thing, pulsing with an energy I couldn't comprehend. Shadows began to dance in the fading sunlight that crept through the curtains, and the encroaching darkness mirrored my doubts. I knew the car, a sleek, black sports machine, was not merely a vehicle. It was a portal to something else, something that could change everything in my life. But as I flipped the key in my fingers, a fear took root. Was it really a gift, or a curse disguised as fortune? My heart raced anew, pulsing with equal parts excitement and dread. The next morning, I found myself waking before dawn, the world painted in a soft gray. I stared at the ceiling, anxiety gnawing at my resolve. The whisper of the unknown felt louder than ever. I could feel my heart tethered to the thought of the car, urging me to take a step beyond the threshold of my ordinary life. With hesitant determination, I forced myself to stand. As if the universe was responding, my phone buzzed, and a message lit up the screen. You need to meet me. 2 p.m. Parking lot by the old diner. It was from an unknown number, but I knew I had to follow this thread. like a moth to a flame. I didn't know who would greet me, but the promise of revelation beckoned. The hours crawled until finally, I found myself in the parking lot, the old diner's neon sign flickering behind me. My heart pounded like a war drum, the heat of anticipation mingling with fear. The air crackled with tension. I looked around, seeing the ghosts of my past in every faded booth inside, the laughter that felt so far away now. Then, I spotted Hera's figure leaning against a rusty car, impatience etched across her brow. As I approached, recognition jolted through me. It was Mia, my childhood friend who had moved away years ago. "You're back?" I stammered, taken aback by her presence. Mia smirked, though her eyes held a depth of understanding. "No time for catching up. You got the message, right?" I nodded, feeling an undercurrent of urgency. "What does it mean? What's really going on?" She glanced around before stepping closer, lowering her voice. "It's not what you think. This isn't just someone giving away a car. It's part of something bigger." Her expression turned serious. "There are people involved who want to see you fail, to see you give up." That I felt the blood drain from my face. "Why? What do they want from me?" Mia shook her head, urgency growing in her tone. "I can't explain everything now. But trust me, if you take that car, you're stepping into a game. One that could cost you everything." Panic bubbled in my chest, but deep down, an ember of rebellion sparked. Did I let fear rule my life, or did I face whatever darkness lay ahead? But before I could respond, a car screeched into the lot, abruptly cutting through the charged atmosphere. The window rolled down, revealing a stranger with piercing eyes, an almost predatory glint to them. "Are you coming?" he called, gesturing at me with a slick smile that sent another wave of unease skittering down my spine. Suddenly, I felt trapped between the past I knew and the future that loomed, volatile and uncertain. The core of our friendship fused with the raw energy of the moment, and I wanted nothing more than to run back into the safety of my former life. But what awaited me as I stood on the edge? MIA's words echoed, the risk extended far beyond my own desires. "Run," she shouted, breaking through the tension. But as I took a step back, I locked eyes with the stranger, who suddenly leaned out of the window, revealing a deep scar that sliced across his cheek, a mark that told stories of troubles I couldn't yet fathom. "Make your choice," he said, a confident smirk playing on his lips. In that instant, the air thickened with stakes I never imagined existed. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet, the weight of my decision pressing heavily on my heart. And then, just as I thought I had a handle on the situation, the phone in my pocket buzzed violently. It was another message, one that made my stomach drop. "They are coming for you. Get out now." My breath hitched as I looked between Mia and the stranger, stunned by how quickly my world spiraled into chaos. How had a simple message ended me here, staring into an abyss of choices far darker than I ever anticipated? The world around me dissolved into a blurry haze as my heart thundered in my chest. The weight of the stranger's smirk pressed down with an unsettling intensity, and the warning from the message rattled in my mind like loose change in a pocket, an irritating reminder of the choices I didn't even know I had to make. "Mia, what do we do?" The tremor in my voice caused her brow to furrow in worry, her eyes darting from me to the not-so-friendly stranger. "First, you get yourself away from this mess," she urged, grabbing my arm with a ferocity that sent a cascade of warmth through me. "It's not just the car. It's everything that's tied to it. There are people who would think nothing of destroying you to get what they want." A part of me wanted to believe it was hyperbole, a product of her anxiety that was maybe unjustified. But as I looked at the stranger, the weight of a dangerous reality loomed. The reality that acceptance of this gift might lead me down a path I could never unwalk. "Run." MIA's voice again sliced through the air. But as a swell of adrenaline kicked in, I found my feet rooted, caught between the past and an impending, chaotic future. "Everyone wants something," the stranger interrupted, tilting his head as if he was savoring the fear thrumming between us. "Why not let them have what they want?" With this, his words wrapped around me, forming chains that threatened to bind me to him, to his game. But then Mia stepped forward, blocking me from his gaze. "You don't get to lure her in." She's not a pawn for your amusement. Her protective stance wrapped around me like a warm blanket amidst a winter storm, but the chaos roiling within remained distressingly tangible before I could muster a response. A motorcycle roared into the parking lot, its engine cutting through the tense silence. Instinctively, I caught my breath. The very sound was a herald of uncertainty. A woman clad in black leather dismounted, her movements fluid and graceful amidst the rigid anxiety in the air. She approached, and I soon recognized the fierce intensity in her gaze. It was Ellie, someone from my past I thought I'd never see again, a wild spirit who had jumped into life with reckless abandon. My heart leaped at the thought of her presence as she stopped beside Mia, throwing a casual smirk toward the stranger. "Thought I'd find you here," Ellie said, her eyes dancing between me and the stranger as if weighing odds. "Been keeping an eye on you, kid." "Ellie, you know this guy?" I stammered, confusion swirling in my thoughts. "Oh, I know him all too well. And trust me, you do not want to be part of whatever twisted game he's inviting you to play." Anger laced her words, igniting an unexpected fire in my veins. There was a level of camaraderie in her tone, a spark in the air mingling with a sense of protection I desperately craved. Mia's grip on my arm tightened as the stranger's smirk hardened into something predatory. "You two should mind your own business," he shot back coolly, pulling a glimmering object from his pocket. A blade. The sunlight caught the edge, casting sharp reflections that danced like shards of ice across the asphalt. My heart raced as the tension thickened. The warning from my phone reverberated in my mind. "They are coming for you." What if they were already here? "It's the car, isn't it?" Ellie spoke, defiance igniting her eyes. "No matter how hard they try, some things can't be taken away. You just have to choose to not give in to the chaos they bring." The words enveloped me, saturating the air with a flicker of hope, even amidst looming darkness. I wanted to believe I had a choice. "You don't know what you're messing with," the stranger snarled, his hands tightening around the blade. I felt the atmosphere shift, crackling with unspoken threats. My breath quickened as I looked at Mia and Ellie, their faces etched with urgency. "What do I do?" The question slipped from my lips, raw and exposed. Just then, an unmarked van pulled into the parking lot, tires screeching in protest. My stomach dropped. "Is that them?" I whispered, my voice trembling with fear. "Run," Mia shouted again, but the urgency in her voice felt different this time, threaded through with desperation. In that instant, the stranger lunged, and chaos erupted. I felt the world whirling around me, a tempest of emotion and instinct colliding in my chest. Do I run with Mia and Ellie, who were willing to shield me, or do I turn toward the beckoning danger that promised to sparkle with allure and challenge? Before I could make a choice, a shout erupted from the van, and I froze, caught between a warning and the rising tide of an unseen tide. "Get her! Don't let her escape!" Mia's face was a portrait of horror, yet determination glinted in her eyes, and Ellie moved as if by instinct, pulling me back. As the chaotic energy crackled around us, the world exploded into a cacophony filled with shouting and metal clashing. In that moment, tethered to my choices, I realized my journey was just beginning. But with a gut-wrenching twist, I took a step towards the edge, ready to leap into a world I was terrified to embrace. And then, I heard the unmistakable hum of the sleek, black car idling nearby, waiting like a beast. In that moment, I understood that I would have to risk everything to find the truth that lay hidden beneath the shadows of my past. The thrum of chaos swelled, drowning out my coherent thoughts as I found myself wedged between the protective barrier of Mia's steadiness and Ellie's fierce confidence. An electric tension buzzed in the air, palpable and suffocating, while the unseen pursuers closed in with their unrelenting determination. I could practically feel a heartbeat in the asphalt beneath my feet, echoing the fear racing through my veins. "Mia, Ellie, what do we do?" I clutched their hands, a desperate anchor amid the storm. The stranger had pulled back for a moment, blade glinting in the muted light as he sized us up, calculating and menacing. My instincts screamed for flight, yet my body remained paralyzed by the constricting fear of choices and consequences. "We fight," Ellie said, her voice a steely whisper that sliced through the madness. Or we run. But we stick together. No matter what, we don't let them divide us. Listen, Mia shot back, urgency igniting her eyes. We have to get to the black car. It's our only chance. It's more than just a car. It's your lifeline. There was something in her tone, an assertion that tugged me toward the unknown with a strange blend of dread and determination. The stranger's eyes flickered, disbelief cracking the ominous facade he wore. You think you can escape from this? He mocked, rolling his shoulders back as he tightened his grip on the knife. You think you have the luxury of choices? Everything inside me screamed that we had to move, to follow Mia's instructions before his words became reality. Let's go, I urged, breaking the paralysis, dragging Ellie and Mia toward the roar of the idling car like a moth drawn to a flame. The excitement pulsed within me. The thought of freedom eclipsed the shadows clawing at my mind. With every step, the world narrowed down to a singular focus, the black car that could whisk us away from everything I had ever known. But the clamor of panic clung to the air like a dense fog, and just as we approached the vehicle, the echo of boots hitting asphalt grew louder behind us. A sharp cry broke through the chaos. A split second of sound that sent a chill down my spine. Get her. It was the voice from the van, close and insistent. A dogged hunt fueled by a darkness I still couldn't fully comprehend. Panic surged, urging my legs to pump faster. But I hesitated, mind racing as the promise of danger eclipsed the burgeoning hope within me. I caught a sideways glance at Mia, her face etched with desperation, her jaw set in fierce determination. She wouldn't let anything happen to me. And then, in that breath-stealing moment, I felt something, an odd warmth blooming deep inside, unfurling in the whirling storm of my heart. It was Ellie's grip tightening on my wrist, reminding me that courage flowed not just from the thrill of escape, but from the connections that tethered us in tumultuous times. Behind you, Mia shouted, and I barely managed to pivot when an arm shot out of nowhere, catching my shoulder with a brutal tug. Time momentarily froze, lingering in the shock and disbelief that crowned my thoughts with dread. I turned to see the stranger, a ghastly grin on his face, his predation becoming all too real. With an instinct born of sheer survival, I threw an arm out, shoving Ellie and Mia toward the car. Go. I knew I was pushing my friends toward safety at the cost of my own. Strong hands gripped me, fingers digging into my skin like teeth. And it was then that reality crashed over me in a wave. The stranger was not going to let me go so easily. Desperation surged, momentarily igniting the fight nestled within my heart. A glimmer of defiance that was new and raw. You don't know who I am, I exclaimed, voice rippling with strength that felt foreign yet empowering. You don't know anything about me. That it doesn't matter. He smirked, and with that, he yanked me backward, pulling me into the shadows of his menacing presence. I could feel the ground tilting beneath my feet, the pull of the unknown swallowing me whole. Just as I caught my breath to scream, something unexpected happened. A pair of warm hands met my lower back, pushing me forward with a kindling force. It was Ellie, her fierce spirit unwilling to let me vanish into darkness without a fight. Go, she shouted, and in the next instant, the world turned into a blur of noise and laughter. A moment fleeting and surreal as adrenaline pumped through my veins. Somewhere in the chaos, I heard Mia's voice carry above the tumult, a battle cry infused with a mixture of sorrow and hope. You can't take her. Well, do what it takes to protect her. But I felt myself torn, the warmth of their fellowship clashing against the chilling grip of the stranger, the fate of my choices spiraling out like the asphalt beneath my feet. And in that heartbeat, it all unraveled. Just as I turned to run, the unmistakable sound of the engine revving filled the air. The unmarked van screeched to life, tires biting into the ground as it surged forward, intent on claiming me. Get in. Mia's voice rang with an urgency that ignited a flicker of hope, just as the stranger seemed ready to plunge his knife toward me. I could scarcely breathe as time slowed, the limbs of fate twining dangerously around us. And then, the world erupted into chaos. Metal met flesh, and screams resonated through the spaces between us. As I tore myself away from the clutching shadows behind me, I found my feet pounding the ground toward the car, but the piercing question echoed in my mind. Was I running toward salvation or straight into my own doom? And there, waiting at the precipice of choice, I stood poised, heart thundering in my chest, teetering on the edge of a life I was terrified to claim, while secrets curled like smoke around me, hinting at a destiny I had yet to fathom. A sharp screech sliced through the night as the black car's tires swung sharply, inches away from my frantically pounding feet. For a heartbeat, the world faded into a cacophony of KSLE's shout, the blaring horn, the guttural sounds of conflict behind me. As the door swung open like a portal to freedom, I thrust myself inside, and the moment the door slammed shut felt like the finality of the world closing in around me. I was safe, yet the warmth of that safety began to crumble as the realization sank. Aini had just escaped, but not without deeply embedding fear within my heart. Drive. Drive, Mia shouted, her voice fraying with urgency as she slid into the seat beside me, eyes wide with distress. Ellie dove into the back, a frantic energy rippling in every movement she made. The air hung thick with dread as if the shadows outside were biding their time, waiting for a moment of weakness. You okay? Mia said, her voice calming yet edged with an undercurrent of worry. I could barely nod, my breaths coming in harsh gasps as the sound of our pursuers' footsteps faded into the distance. We were dashing toward an unseen future. Yet each turn the car took felt like a loaded question unanswered. Every glance toward the rearview mirror seemed to carry the weight of what I'd left behind, a growing emptiness mingling with the flickers of adrenaline that held me raw and desperate. Did they catch him? Ellie's voice was small, tremulous. He was right there, I don't know. My voice cracked, a tight ball of emotion rising in my throat. They might have grabbed him, or he might still be out there. The thought churned painfully in my gut, the visceral connection I felt to the boy I barely knew but had suddenly grown to care for. Focus on the road, Mia, Ellie urged, the fierce confidence returning to her voice as she scanned the horizon. We need to get out of here. Those guys are relentless. Mia's hands tightened around the steering wheel, knuckles white, her eyes fixed ahead. There's a shortcut through the back roads. If we can make it past the bridges, we might lose them for good. The determination in her tone rekindled a flicker of hope within me, even as anxiety gnawed at the edges. But even as we sped into the night, uncertainty wrapped around me like the chilling embrace of shadows. I turned my gaze toward the window, watching familiar landscapes dissolve into a blur of lights and trees. Every house we passed leaned toward us, watching with judgment, and I felt an unbearable heaviness fill the space. What would they say if they knew? If they understood? In that moment, digging deeper into the well of my emotions, I felt fragile. The weight of keeping my friends safe while carrying my own fears felt overwhelming. And yet I remembered how we fought together, how Ellie's strength had pushed me toward freedom. It was that connection that still flickered, igniting something deep within me. Was it selfish to want them by my side when even I felt so lost? Where do we go next? I ventured, the vulnerability spilling out like a forgotten secret. We need to get to the old cabin, Ellie interjected, leaning forward, her eyes glimmering with a shimmering hope. It's off the map and it used to belong to MIA's family. It should be a safe spot for now. Mia nodded resolutely, the lines of her face hardening with determination. It's isolated. No one will think to look for us there. We can regroup and figure our next moves. He'll get us there, Mia promised, pushing the car to its limits as we veered off the main roads and into the labyrinth of uncharted paths winding through the trees. The cabin loomed in my mind, an uncertain sanctuary that felt both inviting and suffocating. What if it wasn't enough? What if the darkness was far too relentless, shadows trailing behind us like a specter? The doubts roared louder in my mind, drowning out the fleeting comfort I sought. Then, suddenly, Ellie reached out and squeezed my shoulder, her warmth steadying the storm inside. You don't have to worry. We're in this together, she said, her voice layered with unyielding strength. Together, I repeated, savoring the word even as new shivers of fear crept in. Together felt like a promise, a lifeline. But how much longer could we fight the encroaching shadows? Just as we rounded a bend, headlights surged toward us from nowhere, an aggressive beam cutting through the darkness. Panic erupted again. "Mia, they're behind us," I gasped, heart thundering against the confines of my chest as the van jostled into view. Relentless and fueled by malevolence, we're not losing them. "Hold on." Mia's voice ignited a surge of electricity, a precarious dance in the symphony of chaos. The car surged forward, tires screaming against the wet asphalt, but the pursuing van was gaining ground, its growl echoing like a predator closing in on its prey. I could hardly breathe as I glanced back and saw a masked figure brimming with determination, the stranger's menacing presence looming ever larger in our wake. "Keep driving," Ellie shouted, but as I turned to face the front, a chilling realization seized me, a flicker of movement reflected in the rearview mirror. In that instant, hope shattered when I spotted a second vehicle speeding toward us in the opposite lane, intent and unchecked. My stomach dropped as dread settled in, its cold fingers gripping me as tightly as the chaos that enveloped us. "Mia, watch out!" I screamed. Before I could inhale, the world exploded into a chaos more deafening than I could have ever imagined. The crash felt like time suspended. Metal screamed against metal, a visceral, spinning cacophony that sent shards of shattered glass cascading through the air like confetti from a broken dream. My instincts kicked in, and I barely had time to brace myself against the seat as the world twisted violently into shadows. When the noise finally subsided, all that enveloped me was a thick, suffocating silence punctuated by the erratic sound of my heart racing in my chest. The car was spinning, the world outside a montage of flashing lights and blurs. I dared to open my eyes, and for a disorienting moment, everything was unreal, too much like the nightmares I'd tried to escape. "Mia, Ellie," I cried, my voice strained but laced with urgency. I felt a surge of panic wash over me, heavier and more suffocating than the moment of impact. "Here." Ellie's voice sliced through the chaos, strained but undeniably present. My heart surged with relief. I'm okay, just..." The rest of her words were lost to the ringing in my ears, but the grit of her courage grounded me. "Mia?" I called, desperately looking for her in the dim light filtering through the windshield. I turned my head, forcing my body to respond, but everything felt heavy and slow. "Still here, still driving." MIA's voice came through with a steady determination that felt miraculous. Yet I could sense the strain beneath her words. "We need to get out, unbuckle your seatbelts. They'll push through." Determined, I fumbled with the clasp, my fingers trembling. With an effort that felt like an eternity, I unlatched the belt and wrenched it free, throwing myself against the door, which was now tilted at an awkward angle. Dust and shards of glass filled the air, hanging like a heavy blanket as I struggled to inhale. Somehow, we stumbled out of the mess of twisted metal and lingering smoke, the night air sharply contrasting the suffocating interior we had just fled. With my heart hammering in my chest, I took a moment to assess our surroundings, searching for any sign of hope amidst the surreal disarray. Shadows loomed just beyond the crescent of our crumpled car, whispering promises of danger and despair. But, in my peripheral vision, I spotted the distant glow of headlights approaching from the far end of the road. Behind us, the distant rumble of our pursuers grew closer. "It's them," Ellie shouted, fear slicing through the air as she turned toward me, eyes wide and frantic. "Get behind the car." MIA's voice was a commanding echo laced with urgency. "We need to shield ourselves. Now." Instinctively, we huddled low, pressing our backs against the cool metal as we watched those headlights grow closer, two bright orbs of doom slicing through the shadows. My side buzzed with adrenaline as I noticed that in that blinding light, the figure inside was indistinguishable, a menace lurking within the glow. "We can't let them find us. I can't go back," I said, panic threading my words, but beneath that fear lay an unexpected ember of defiance. "Not now." "Shoo," Ellie whispered, reaching out to clasp my hand, her grip like a tether against the whirlwind of my fears. "Remember that time at the park? When we went on that stupid ghost tour, and you were convinced the ghost would find you? You faced that darkness head-on." I held her gaze, feeling the warmth seep into my bones. "But it was all made up. Not like this." "Exactly," she countered, her voice steadying. This is real, but we're more than what tries to push us down. We can use that fear, redirect it. When they come, we confront them. Together, a cacophony shattered the quiet as the vehicle approached, now fully illuminated, revealing a sleek, black SUV blazing down the road, tires screeching against the asphalt. My breath caught, every instinct screaming to run, to hide, but as we pressed closer to the car, I felt something shift inside me. Maybe it was Ellie's bravery spilling over into me or the fierce love I held for my friends. But in that moment, amidst the chaos, I felt a strange wave of clarity. I realized I wouldn't let anyone else be taken. As the SUV came to a screeching halt, dust swirling in its wake, the door swung open and a figure emerged, tall, imposing, and clad in dark clothing that shimmered ominously under the streetlights. A panic rose in me, threatening to suffocate my resolve. Then, a flicker of movement caught my eye just behind him, a flash of red hair that sent a shock of recognition coursing through my veins. "No," I whispered, my heart sinking as a familiar face emerged from the darkness, tearing my attention away from the impending confrontation. "Sam," I gasped, feeling the world tilt dangerously. The boy I had barely known but had also shared a moment with was now standing there, caught between us and them. "Get away from here," he yelled, blue eyes fierce and fiery, shimmering with a determination that sent tingles of hope coursing through me. But it was fleeting, dulled by the rising fear of the masked figures emerging behind him, the ones who hunted him, and who now had us cornered once more. "Sam, we need to go. It's not safe," I shouted back, my heart racing with desperation. Ellie's grip tightened around my hand, her voice trembling with urgency. "We can't leave him. He's then," in a moment that felt like a split-second eternity, I locked eyes with Sam just as the masked figures advanced, their intentions unmistakable, shadows spiraling closer. Everything unraveled in a split second, the reality of our world crystallizing into chaos anew. "Run," I screamed, as if those two syllables could conjure up enough power to change our fate, to force the torrent of darkness away from us, just for a moment. And at that critical juncture, one thought crystallized in my mind: life would never be the same, and maybe this was the moment everything shifted. The dawning realization surged within me that hope was not a hidden treasure but a fight we would have to embrace, even if it meant confronting the shadows directly. That was our chance. Or our final stand. Only time would tell which it was. This night had cast us all into a deeper struggle, and above all, my heart ached with the burning question that echoed against the deafening noise of impending conflict: would we embrace the fight, or would we succumb to the dark? As my scream echoed into the night, reverberating against the stillness of the post-crash streets, the air thickened with a weight that felt almost tangible. We were on the edge of a precipice, a chasm of uncertainty threatening to swallow us whole. I barely had time to register our surroundings, but the image of Sam darting toward us amidst the shadows remained seared in my mind. He was an unexpected light in this storm. "Mia, Ellie," I shouted again, desperation clawing at my throat as I glanced to my friends. Instinctively, we moved closer together, forming a huddled shield against the gathering darkness. "Stay behind me," Mia urged, her voice fierce, yet I could hear the tremor beneath it that spoke volumes. She felt the weight of responsibility for us all. The masked figures were drawing nearer, their intentions cloaked in secrecy, and the oppressive silence crushed the rush of adrenaline threatening to drown my resolve. "Sam, please, you can't face them alone." My voice was frantic, but he didn't waver, his back straightening against the chilling inevitability of the danger approaching. "I can't let them take you back. You have to trust me," he shouted, and in those fleeting moments, I saw more than fear in his eyes. I saw a flicker of kindness, an unearned bravery worth risking everything. Then, without warning, distance shrank. The chill of confrontation descended upon us as the figures stepped forward, meaning draping around them like a sinister cloak. "There's nowhere to run," one of them taunted, a twisted smile breaking through the mask. Panic surged again, like a tidal wave crashing against my chest, and I felt the world tilt. Time slowed in a painful, stretching way. Thoughts tangled in my mind. I thought of our laughter, memories woven and entwined, and the promise of starlit moments shared amidst the mundane. They couldn't take us back to that darkness. Not now, not ever. Ellie. I turned to her, urgency igniting my resolve. We have to trust in each other. We've fought our battles together. Remember the park? The memory pushed through the panic, breathing hope into the moment. Whatever is coming, we can't separate. We fight together. As I spoke, I felt Ellie's hand tighten around mine, her fingers trembling but resolute. Together, she whispered, a steely determination creeping back into her voice. A flicker of movement drew my attention back to Sam. He was moving, positioning himself strategically between us and the advancing figures. Each step he took crackled with an unyielding spirit, a protector standing defiant in the face of impending danger. Stop! He shouted, desperation and determination merging in his tone. If you want me, come and get me. Leave them alone. Why do you care so much? One of the masked figures sneered, advancing closer, their presence chilling the air. These girls are nothing, they are everything. Sam shot back, fury shining in his eyes like flames. I felt the strength of his conviction flow through me, igniting a spark deep within I in that moment. As the masked figures prepared to close in, the flickering headlights of another vehicle split the air, illuminating the darkness. I momentarily caught a glimpse of hope carved into their hollow visages. Run! Sam shouted again, and the raw urgency in his voice pushed me to my feet. Get to the road. Move! In unison, Mia and Ellie sprang up, uniting with me in a rush toward the asphalt. Raw determination crashing through us like the waves of a storm. My mind raced with uncertainty and fear, but alongside that, a new adrenaline coursed through my veins. It was the need to fight back, to cling to one another, to survive through this nightmarish chaos. They'll hold them off. Sam called after us, but I felt a primal fear surge through me. No, you're coming with us. I won't let you fall back. He countered, voice rising with intensity as the figures swarmed. With every moment we hesitated, the looming threat grew. Ellie glanced at me, a myriad of emotions flashing in her eyes. We help him, she urged. No, we need to escape. Mia was adamant, but her resolve wavered as the distance between us grew a chasm wrought not only of space but of choices made in mere moments. Together, Ellie insisted, determination burning with fierce clarity. Then everything shattered. A sudden explosion of noise erupted behind us, a cacophony of shouting and scuffling as Sam collided with one of the figures, sturdy and unyielding. The world spiraled away into a blur of shadows and chaos. Go! I screamed. Adrenaline and electric surged through me as I forced myself to run, the stakes higher than ever. Every footfall brought a mix of hope and terror, every heartbeat a reminder of what was left behind. But as we neared the edge of the road, I turned back for one last glimpse of Sam, and in that instant, the confrontation warped into a pinwheel of chaos as the figure shoved him, his body slamming into the ground, a brutal reminder of our fragility. Mia! I shouted, tears blurring my vision, heart-wrenching at the sight, and as if sensing my anguish, the lights reflecting from the approaching vehicle intensified, bathing everything in a stark glow. Just go. Sam's voice rang into the night, laced with pain but an undeniable thread of love for us. As I turned, I felt a new sense of resolve wrapping around my chest like a protective cloak, a vow forged in the fires of despair. We would find him, we would return, and we would confront the darkness together. But the fear remained as I felt the ground shift beneath us. A sense that we might have been trapped in something far more dangerous than we anticipated. The question lingering in the air, could we overcome this? Would we emerge stronger, or would we lose one more piece of ourselves along the way? Just as we reached the road, a sudden realization gripped meth headlights from the approaching vehicle, illuminating everything before me, were familiar, shining an undeniable warmth even amidst the chaos. The driver's face bore a striking resemblance to someone I thought I'd lost, but the fleeting glimmer of hope was swiftly swallowed by the weight of reality. What awaited us next was a path shrouded in uncertainty, where every step forward felt riddled with question marks, and every heartbeat echoed with the lingering bond of trust we were still trying to forge. All I knew was that we were on the verge of unraveling something deeper. Everything was about to change. As I stood frozen at the edge of the road, the headlights danced in a blur of brilliance against my darkened world. A familiarity radiated from the driver, a fleeting warmth amid the chilling remnants of our recent ordeal. Just as I began to decipher the features of the face behind the glass, a sickening thud reverberated from behind me. It was Sam's anguished cry, a haunting echo that seeped into my bones like ice. "Ellie, Mia," I breathed, my heart crashing against my ribcage like a caged bird desperate for freedom. The glow of the vehicle faded for a moment as I turned back, my instincts warring with the instinct to run. I could sense a fracture forming between us, every passing second drawing a line that would be so hard to cross back over. "We can't leave him," I implored, biting down on the rising panic that threatened to spiral into chaos yet again. Ellie steadied her breath, her gaze unwavering as she clutched my arm, while Mia, ever the pragmatic force, was scanning our surroundings like a hawk. "Are we really doing this?" Mia asked, voice laced with uncertainty. "What if we make it worse?" "We owe him something," Ellie said, her resolve returning like the sun peeking through storm clouds. "We cannot abandon him." We moved as a unit, tremors of fear trickling down our spines, pushing us closer to the fray. Each step felt heavy, hanging in the air like the shards of a broken promise. But as we neared the chaos, a small flicker of courage lit within me. Then, from the corner of my eye, I glimpsed the familiar contours of the luxury car finally closing the distance. The driver's window rolled down, revealing a face I thought I'd lost to the shadows of life's cruel hand. "Ellie, Mia, over here." The urgency in his voice jolted me back to reality, but I remained torn, caught in the pull of my heartstrings. "Go." I yelled to them again, tearing away from them for a brief moment as I rushed toward the car's open door. The driver, a beacon of hope draped in a warm smile that seemed to slice through my fear, reached out. My heart swelled and sank simultaneously as I recognized him. Jared, my older brother, thought to be lost in his own tragic battle. "Ellie, we don't have time." MIA's voice was strained, but my gaze remained locked on Jared, memories crashing through me like waves of bittersweet nostalgia. How many nights had he promised to protect me as we navigated our troubled lives? The crushing weight of the past collided with the urgent present, and I struggled to ground myself. "Help them, Jared, please," pleaded. It was a jumbled mix of hope and desperation spilling from my lips. "Mia, we can't let him face them alone." Ellie grasped my hand, and with that, I could feel the connection spark anew, the promise of our unity pulling me back from the edges of indecision. "He'll handle things here," Jared reassured us, eyes flashing with resolve that ignited a glimmer of faith. But the pulsating chaos around us churned painfully in my stomach, every second that passed feeling like a missed heartbeat. Still, I registered the grim reality. Sam was still ensnared in the fray, a warrior unyielding against a tide of masked men who could easily drown him. "Let's go," I urged, breaking into a sprint as we pulled ourselves away from safety and plunged headfirst into chaos once more. An unusual calm chased the adrenaline racing through me. The camaraderie between us felt strengthened by the shared risk, and the weight of our pasts no longer shackled my resolve. The snarls and shouts of bodies colliding sent dread spiraling through me. But there was depth beneath those jagged edges, a thread, woven with hope that perhaps we could shield Sam, just as Jared had shielded me in the past. I could feel the rhythm of our hearts, synchronized in fear, whispering promises of strength. "Together," I called, turning back briefly to share a glance of fierce determination with Ellie and Mia. Then, the unexpected happened. Out from the shadows, an unexpected ally emerged, an enigmatic figure clad in a dark leather jacket, their presence commanding attention. With movements swift as lightning, they flew into the chaos, launching themselves at the assailants with a cunning grace. The figure was like a whirlwind. The masked men were caught unaware, confusion flooding the space as this new force intervened on our behalf. "Who are you?" I gasped, watching as the newcomer deflected attacks with an efficiency that left us breathless. "Not the time," the figure shouted back, flipping a masked assailant over their shoulder. But in their shifting stance, I caught a glimpse of their face. The sharp features, how did they seem so familiar? A flicker of recognition sparked in my mind like a flint against drought. Ellie, Mia, and I were drawn into the heart of the struggle, finding Sam and scrambling to reach him through the melee. Hope began to coalesce around us, amplifying with each thud of our hearts as we fought together. Yet, the face of the ally lingered in the recesses of my mind. Something about it gnawed at me. Just as we broke through the fray, I reached Sam, his expression a mix of pain and fierce resolve. "You made it." He was breathless, his relief almost palpable as I pulled him closer, preparing to escape. But as I turned, ready to pull him from the despair, the packed chaos rattled violently around us again. The leather-clad figure was grappling with one of the masked men when suddenly, their utility knife shone in the pale light. A slashing motion, and then the figure staggered back, a gasping breath escaping their lips as they collapsed to the ground. I screamed, pushing off the ground, scrambling to make my way toward them through the flickering chaos. But as I reached their side, my heart dropped in horror as I crouched down, recognizing that face, the striking features now marred with blood and struggle. "Jared," I choked out, my voice thick with shock as my brother gasped. With his last ounce of strength, he met my gaze, a rush of recognition glittering in his weary eyes. Then the world spun around me, my grip on reality blurring as I realized that the darkness was encroaching in from all sides. Everything I thought I knew was slipping away, reality shifting like sand beneath our feet. "Keep fighting for them," he whispered, words so faint, and yet they seared through the chaos like light piercing the deepest night. "You have to stay together, promise me." "I promise," I called back, heart racing until darkness claimed the edges of my vision, leaving me with nothing but the bitter tang of despair. And in that moment, I realized the fight was far from over. We were about to face not just the enemies outside but the shadows within ourselves as well. Confronting the truth of our connections, our pasts, and the fragility that bound us together had become imperative, with hope hanging precariously in balance. But as the night deepened, a dreadful apprehension unfurled within Muhat. Are we truly fighting for, if everything we love hangs in the balance? Indeed, our fate was yet unknown, a cruel horizon just beyond reach, ready to reveal answers I had not been prepared for. The cacophony of fists landing and bodies colliding melted into a distant hum as I knelt by Jared's side, cradling his head in my lap, heart racing with panic. I could feel Ellie and Mia flanking us, their eyes wide with a mixture of dread and disbelief as they scanned the chaos. But all I could focus on was the warmth leaving Jared's body, the life ebbing away like a tide retreating into the ocean. "Jared, hold on," I urged, desperation clawing at my throat. "You're going to be okay. We can get you to safety. Just hang in there." His breath was shallow, each labored gasp echoed by the frantic chaos swirling around us, the fight raging on as if it were meaningless in the face of this personal tragedy. "Ellie," he croaked, eyes flickering at my best friend, his voice transforming from a deep baritone to an almost haunting whisper. "Take care of Mia, take care of them." "Oh, don't talk like that," Mia yelled, her usually steady voice trembling. "You're going to be fine. We're all going to be fine." But the weight of his gaze held a truth I was terrified to confront. My chest tightened, a vice of fear tightening its grip. I couldn't bear the thought of losing him. The burden of our fractured family history loomed over me. But in this moment, all I could feel was the desperate need for healing and love, a desperate wish that somehow I could erase the scars of our past. "Help is coming. Just focus on me," I stammered, searching his face for some flicker of hope. But the light dwindled in his eyes. "I'm proud of you, Ellie. Of all of you," he said, a faint smile ghosting across his lips. "You're stronger than I ever was." "Stop it. Please just hold on." My voice cracked, wrestling with emotions as I fought against the tears threatening to spill down my cheeks. I longed for the brother who had always stood tall for me, who had helped guide me through darkness. "Promise me," he coughed through gritted teeth, a trickle of crimson seeping from the corner of his mouth. "Promise you won't let fear crush you. Stay together." "I promise," I whispered, the solemn weight of the vow almost crushing me. But as if sensing my resolve, his fingers tightened briefly around mine before slackening. Oh, I screamed, my voice raw with anguish as his head dropped, lifeless. I could feel a piece of my soul tearing away, fragmenting in the face of this unbearable reality. The world around me continued its brutal tumult, yet I was number shell encased in grief. Ellie, we need to go. MIA's voice broke through, desperate and urgent. We can't stay here. They'll overwhelm you. A ferocious shout broke the air, and in an instant, our surroundings morphed. I clung to Jared's body, paralyzed by sorrow. An eruption of energy surged through me, fueled not by hatred, but by a raw, unyielding strength born from despair. Let's go, Ellie. Ellie repeated fiercely, gripping my arm with an intensity that pulled me from the shroud of disbelief. The presence of urgency recalled something deeper. I couldn't fail him, not now. Jared's sacrifice would not be in vain. Rising with a newfound energy, I glanced around, taking stock of our surroundings. The leather-clad figure was still engaged in the fray, cutting through waves of foes with a fierce precision that felt almost choreographed. But my eyes were drawn back to the shadows, my heart throbbing with an inexplicable intuition. Someone was watching. Move. We have to find Sam. I rallied my remaining strength, glancing over to Mia and Ellie as they intensely surveyed our shaky little formation. The loss of Jared rang painfully in every conversation, every shared glance, and I felt our unity. Every heartbeat was a quiet promise, binding us together amid this shattering turmoil. As we tore through the chaos, my mind raced. There had to be more to Jared, more to all of this. Threads of his life flowed around us like hidden paths waiting to be uncovered. The looming questions weighed heavily on my heart. What secrets had he been protecting? Who was the mysterious figure risking their life for us? Something tugged at my consciousness, and with every step back into the fray, the pulse of hope that lingered would not fade. I could feel it building. We were not alone. Then, as we broke through to the space beside Sam, I caught that familiar silver glint. A patch of leather not far from the ground, a badge of something I couldn't fully grasp. There, crumpled beneath debris, lay an object that caught my eye, glistening in the winningly chaotic glow of streetlights around us. It reflected Natasha's symbol, an emblem I thought long forgotten. Ellie, look. I reached for it, my fingertips brushing against its surface. A flicker igniting at the back of my mind, memories rising like smoke. But as I pulled it free, the world around us suddenly stilled. Sam froze, eyes wide with confusion and recognition, staring at the object in my grasp. Where did you get that? His voice trembled, a mixture of awe and fear crossing his face. It was a question that hung heavy in the air, and when I lifted my gaze, something akin to realization washed over us, the implications spiraling into a wild, tangled web of secrets we had scarcely begun to unravel. I could feel the earth shifting beneath us, a monumental storm gathering. We were on the precipice, and yet, instead of clarity, a cacophony of unanswered questions loomed ever larger, threatening to swallow us whole. What are you hiding? I whispered, voice trembling against the backdrop of uncertainty looming among us. A plunge into darkness where truths waited to be revealed, not just about Jared, the mysterious figure, or even this emblem, but about the very lives we had fought so hard to protect. And in this disquieting silence, I knew, beneath the veneer of our struggles, there existed depths we had yet to explore, and as the night stretched on, they beckoned us forward into an unknown future, fraught with both uncertainty and the promise of transformation. With every breath I took, the weight of my brother's loss pressed down upon my chest like an anchor, dragging me into an abyss of despair. I cradled Jared's lifeless body in my lap, the warmth of him fading with the rhythm of the chaos swirling about us. I could hardly believe he was gone. Yet, the reality gnawed away at what remained of my heart. Memories flashed before me like the quick exposure of a camera shutter. Jared playing games with me, showing me how to ride a bike, promising he would always be there. And now, the promise lay shattered before me, leaving only a hollow ache where hope once blossomed. Ellie, we have to go. MIA's voice cut through the fog of my grief, breaking me from the reverie. We can't stay here. They'll overwhelm us. But I couldn't move, couldn't leave. My thoughts drifted to that fateful moment in the diner when everything began, like an unwelcome tide drawing me under. Fear gripped me like a vice, and alongside it, the relentless guilt began to swell. I hadn't just lost Jared. I had led him into this chaos, and now I was letting my friends down too. Please, let's go. The urgency in MIA's tone ignited a spark within my numbness. There was something about her voicey tether that pulled me from my sorrow. With a shaky breath, I forced myself to rise, pushing aside the torrent of grief that threatened to consume me. Zelly and Mia rallied around me. I could feel that silent bond take shape again, the three of us, unbreakable warriors in a time of chaos. The passion stirred within me was fueled by the memories of laughter shared, the countless moments when we stood shoulder to shoulder against the world. Together, I affirmatively whispered, feeling the flicker of courage growing. Facing the shadows of the past would not be easy, and Jared's sacrifice would shape our resolve moving forward. I knew we had to honor him by surviving, by seeking justice for all of us still standing. We sprinted through the wreckage, the weight of our missed opportunities and losses carving deeper channels into our hearts. The chaos intensified around us, the sounds of conflict heightening as we broke through the last fragments of understanding, just as the silent leather-clad figure took down another assailant with stunning agility. Sam, battered but undeterred, spotted us and waved frantically. This way, they're trying to regroup. We surged towards him, and in the depths of despair, I felt a thread of hope flare within me, reminding me that darkness could not extinguish our light. That as we reached the center of the tumult, I caught a glimpse of the mysterious all-yen unwavering force within the battleground. My heart raced, recognizing the shared fire in their eyes, the same fierce determination that resided in our hearts. It was as if they knew the footprints of loss that molded us, and they stood firm, ready to fight until their last breath. But amidst the chaos, the masked figures began to retreat, sensing the shift of power as our unity began to overtake the desolation surrounding us. With every swung fist and shattering blow, I witnessed their fear and uncertainty, the once confident faces now twisted with doubt. Keep pushing. Forward, I yelled, igniting the firestorm of our collective will. As we surged with renewed purpose, something shifted within me. The veil of despair began to lift, revealing the foundation of strength and bond that transcended our individual struggles. We were the embodiment of resilience. Then, the figures began to scatter, chaos erupting as our unity became a formidable force that amplified our strength. We were handling our loss not just for ourselves, but for those who had loved and fought beside us, encapsulated within every punch thrown. But just as victory glimmered on the horizon, a chilling sound sliced through the era. Car engine roared to life, charging toward us with the reckless abandon of a beast unleashed. They're coming back, Ellie shouted, panic rippling through her voice. Heart pounding, I turned to Sam, adrenaline racing through my veins. We need to take cover. As the engine sound drew closer, the leather-clad figure, still fiercely protecting us, shifted into position. But the oncoming vehicle was too fast, too close. I could feel the all-consuming sensation of dread creeping in. A moment of suspended disbelief as I grasped onto my friends, my pulse thrumming like a drum. The car screeched to a halt nearby, its headlights searing into the darkness, illuminating our determined faces with harsh clarity. Then, as if orchestrated by some unseen hand, the door swung open, revealing a familiar silhouette that caught me off guard. "And oh, Jared?" I gasped, but then a second figure stepped out behind him, someone I had never thought I would see again. Someone I had once loved, and lost to our twisted lives. "Tara," Sam said, breathless, disbelief painting his features. "What are you doing here?" "Saving your lives," she called out, making her way toward us with determination painting her expression. "You didn't think I'd let you go it alone, did you?" As if time had fractured and splintered, I felt the shock gather around us like an invisible shield. Tara, my childhood love, had returned to the epicenter of our battleground, bringing with her brushes of familiarity against the chaos. But there was little time for emotions. Realities pressed in, and wild determination grounded us as the tides of confrontation surged toward us once more. "We can't let them find us," Jared rallied, and with passion surging through our veins, we pushed past the remnants of our pasts and stepped away from the looming shadows. Together, we're unbreakable, with every pulse of fear rooting itself into our resolve. We collided forward a tempest of loyalty, courage, and unbreakable bonds, ready to confront the darkness that had been gnawing at our lives. As we charged into the night, I knew we faced not only our enemies but also the fears that had held us captive for so long. There was something in this moment, an acknowledgement of our power to reclaim our stories, to forge new beginnings wrapped tightly around friendships redefined as the darkness closed in. I grasped hold of MIA's hand, Ellie's steadfast heart brimming with defiance beside mine, while Tara rekindled the courage that once sparkled so brightly before we were tossed into chaos. Together, we could weather the storm and the rush of shadows swirling around us. A simple truth sparked to the surface. Love endures, propelling us forward, whispering against the cacophony of doubt. Love binds us in ways that fear never could. And amidst the storm, as I channeled every ounce of energy into facing what lay ahead, a single thought blossomed: no more fleeing, no more fear. We would step into our power together, break free from the chains of our past, and rewrite our fates against the backdrop of adversity. With every step, we bore witness to resilience, and the indomitable force of our soul's smoke cleared, and the dawn broke ahead, hinting at a world unconfined by shadows. And, with strength rising in my core, I whispered aloud, "For us together." As the dawn began to glow on the horizon, I felt hope surge through me, knowing that each breath forward was a battlefield I chose to embrace. Because in the face of darkness, we learned not only to survive, we learned to thrive.